Hey everybody, it's Marson here from Northwest Arkansas Land Trust. I'm coming to you from my home in East Fayetteville, where we are currently quarantined in our homes. My wife Cheyenne finally got some toilet paper this morning, so things are looking up and up. We were supposed to have a birding 101 today at the Wilson Springs Preserve, but because of all the social distancing guidelines going out there to everyone, we decided to put that off for a little while. I hope everyone is safe and healthy at home. Um, but this is the perfect time to be out there birding, especially since you do get a chance to be outside and get some fresh air, get away from your home a little bit, and it can be a very solitary activity. So it's good for people that like to get out there in the environment, have a little peace and quiet and a little respite from all the craziness that's going on around us. Um, for those of you who aren't as familiar with Northwest Arkansas Land Trust as others, we are a locally accredited nonprofit land conservation organization. We've got over 3,000 acres protected to date, and we still have a lot more to go. So I encourage everybody to go to nwalandtrust.org and check out more about what we do in our work here in the region. Birding has been a part of my life since I was a little kid. My grandfather used to take me to his lake house and bird for waterfowl primarily. He was a goose hunter and a duck hunter, but he would take me out on a golf cart and we would drive around the lake and see how many birds we could identify. I started at a young age, 7, 8 years old. In the off seasons when we weren't birding as much, we were looking for dragonflies. So I've always been engaged in outdoors looking for things and observing things. I'm also an avid collector of things, and birding is a great way to collect things without filling your house full of junk because you collect life lists, you collect species lists. Everything you have is either up here or it's in a notebook where you can look back and see what you've seen. So this video series I'm creating for you guys in lieu of the Birding 101, I'm targeting it more towards the beginner birder, but people who have been birding for a while should get value out of this. I hope to give you guys some tips, some tricks to help you bird more efficiently, use your field guide a little more efficiently, and have more fun out there. So please stick with the program, and hope to teach you a lot. I hope you learn a lot, and I hope you have a good time. Thanks. So one of the coolest things about birds is how many species there actually are. Next to fish, they're the most dominant vertebrate on the planet. There's over 10,000 species of birds in the world. There's over 2,000 species in North America and over 300 species just in Arkansas. So many times of the year, particularly right now in springtime, if you just walk outside your house, you're likely to see a dozen species or more. Just here in my backyard this morning, I've counted over 20 species. I've got 3 species of woodpeckers right behind me. Northern cardinals, American robins, a lot of what we think of as usual suspects, but each one of them is cool and unique in their own ways. And so just the huge variety of birds you're likely to see at any given time, it makes birding really exciting and really special. The best times of the year to see birds in Arkansas, I would say, are in springtime and fall. You can see them throughout the year. A lot of migrant species move through in the spring and fall, so you see some different things, different warbler species, waterfowl, things of that nature at different times of the year. But throughout most of the year, you're likely to see a bunch of species. We do have a lot of species that are here year-round and breed here year-round, so you're likely to see, dozens of species at any given time in the year. The best time of the day to find them is typically early morning and late afternoon when they're feeding or foraging and looking for a place to roost. There's a phenomenon called the dawn chorus when the sun just comes up, and you'll hear dozens of species all calling to each other around the neighborhood and in the woods. It's so much fun to listen to, and to listen to all the variety of life that's around you at those times of day. I would say the easiest way to get started birding is just to go outside. You don't need any special equipment or fancy gear, although I tend to be a bit of a gear junkie when it comes to a lot of things. Really, you just use your eyes and ears and can pick them out. It's important to stay pretty still and quiet. Birds will typically flush and move away from what they may perceive as danger, but once you've been there for a little while and they determine that you cause no threat to them, they get habituated pretty quick, and most species will typically come around. So birds are all around us. They're everywhere. They're in our yards, they're in the Walmart parking lot, they're out there in the field, in the land, in the wilds. They're all over the place. So how do you start identifying a bird once you see it? Well, the first thing I tell people to do is look at your habitat, look at your surroundings. Are you in a wooded neighborhood? Are you in a wetland? Are you on a lake? Are you out in the middle of a wide open prairie? These will give you clues to what you're likely to see. You're not likely to see many duck species in a wide open grassland. You're not likely to see many forest birds, in a wetland or a grassland. So pay very close attention to where you are. By identifying the habitat you're in, you can actually eliminate a ton of species and save yourself a lot of work later on when you go to look up what you actually saw. So habitat, that's number one. Number two is the shape of the bird, the morphology of it. I always look at size first. So we all recognize a robin or a blue jay, right? We're all pretty familiar with those birds we see in our yard. So is it bigger than that? Is it smaller than that? Are its wings a lot bigger than that? What's its beak shape like? Does it have a really flat bill, or does it have a really pointy beak? Is it really stout? These clues right here will help you determine what family it may be in. Is it a blackbird with a really thin beak? Is it with cardinals that have a really stubby beak? These beaks they've evolved to help the bird eat specific insects or prey or seeds or whatever they may be eating. So that gives you clues right there to what you're actually looking at. Don't get frustrated in the field if you can't identify everything. I try to write things down, or at least take a mental note. Like, did it have wing bars? Did it have an eyebrow? Did it have a ring around the eye? Did it have a white tip on the tail? Those things right there will help you go back and hit Google later on and see if you can identify what they are. A good first piece of gear to get, though, is a good field guide. I've got one here. It's the Birds of Arkansas. This is a pretty good pocket guide to have. It doesn't cover all the birds you'll see in Arkansas, but it does give you most of the usual suspects you're likely to find. There's a ton of good field guides out there, Sibley's, Peterson's. The Audubon has a really good series. Just make sure that the field guide you get actually covers the region that you're in. I've had people call me and they think they've identified some rare bird, and they're using a National Geographic field guide that has Europe and Asia in it. And we don't even have those species here in North America typically. So make sure that the field guide that you get actually covers the region that you're in. Next to a good field guide, another piece of gear that most birders find essential is a pair of binoculars. Now, really hardcore birders will spend thousands of dollars on a pair of binoculars with really good glass. But to get started birding, you really don't have to spend that much money on these. This is my son's pair of binoculars. They're an old pair of Tascos. I think we found at Goodwill a few years ago. They're not the greatest binoculars in the world, but they're really good to keep in the car or throw in a backpack when you go out hiking or whatever, just to have a pair, just to see a little bit farther out. These will extend your reach out into the woods or the prairie or wherever you may be birding, so that you can better identify birds out there in the field. These will allow you to see more detail in the eye rings and beak shape and wing bars and maybe the tips of the feathers, things of that nature that will help you more specifically identify a bird out in the field. You really don't have to spend a lot of money. I mean, you can get a pair at Walmart for 20 or 30 bucks that are pretty good. But as you develop your skills and get more involved in the hobby, you'll definitely want to upgrade your glass at some point. So a good pair of binoculars, that's something that's pretty key for most birders to have. Although just to get started, though, you don't need anything. You just go outside and look around. A lot of birds will come pretty close to you, and you'll be able to identify them pretty easily without binoculars. But yes, another good piece of gear to have. So we've talked a little bit about birds, we've talked a little bit about the field guide, we've talked a little bit about the binoculars. That is enough to get you going and just get you outside. That is the most important part of birding, is just getting out there and taking a look around and seeing what you can see. And I encourage everybody to get outside this weekend and in the coming weeks, as we're all stuck indoors and jonesing for a little bit of nature, to get out there. Find some birds. If you can't identify them in the field right away, write down what you saw, take them back in there to the internet, hit the Google. Google Images is really good for that. Sometimes I just type in black and white small bird, Northwest Arkansas, and see what comes up. A lot of times just that general of a description will get you to where you want to go. So I look forward to seeing you in the upcoming videos. I hope you stick around and watch the rest of them. We're going to go through some more in-depth about how to use the field guide, a little more in-depth about the species of birds you see out here, how to identify a few different birds that may be hard to tell apart from each other, and how to have more fun birding. So please stick with us, and I hope to see you again on the next video. Thank you.